In this video we're going to be tying the EP Tarantula crab. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with our lead eyes. I'm just going to use some plain unfinished lead eyes here. These are a medium size. I'm just going to kind of X-wrap these into place. Once I get them nice and tight, we can then take our thread down the shank of the hook. And I'm going to take it all the way to the bend, and I'm going to go slightly just down the bend a little bit. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some brown EP fiber, and I'm going to tie this in on each side of the shank of the hook. This is just going to be kind of the mouth parts of the crab, the little kind of feelers and pieces that stick off the front of the mouth. I'm going to tie that on one side, then I'll bring the other fibers to the other side. I'm kind of going to use the hook to splay these fibers slightly away from the shank. Just like so. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a orange short streamer brush. You want to make sure that you use a short one. If you use a long one, it simply just gets too long. We're going to tie this streamer brush in right along the side of the shank of the hook. I'm going to separate the streamer brush from that EP fiber we just tied on. Then I'm going to take that short streamer brush and I'm simply just going to do 2 turns. Then I'm going to take my thread right up to the streamer brush and capture it. Then you can either trim or spiral the brush out of there. There we go. Then I'm going to take all those fibers that kind of got trapped forward, and I'm just going to take them and I'm going to wrap back up onto them. This is just going to force them all back and out of the way. Now I can trim that brown EP fiber. I'm going to trim it about twice as long as the short streamer brush we just tied in. I'm going to kind of mangle them a little bit where I just kind of want to taper them. I don't want it to be a blunt cut. I just want it to be a real subtle, tapered kind of end to it. Now the next thing to do is we're going to take some black Krystal flash. I'm going to take either 2 or 3 pieces. I'm going to also tie this in along the side of the shank. And I'm going to use this streamer brush to kind of split that black Krystal flash to the sides. Then I'm going to take some root beer buggy nymph legs. You can also use kind of a brown or an orange or yellow. Any of those colors work just fine. I'm going to take 2 of those and I'm going to do the same process where I tie them in along the side of the fly using the streamer brush to kind of split the rubber legs. I'm going to trim all these. Trim the rubber legs first. I want these to be about the length of the EP fiber. And I'll trim the black pieces just a little bit longer, but not by much. Now we're ready to tie in our next material, which are the claws. I'm going to use some EP crab claws. We're going to tie these in along the side of the hook, just like we did our other material. I'm going to angle these claws slightly down on the shank of the hook. That way when this fly rides hook up, the claws will kind of stick up in the air. And I'll just do the same thing here on the other side. And at this point, I'm going to take my hook and I'm just going to invert it. This will make the next step just a little bit easier. I'm going to tie in my mono eyes. And you can make these black, red, green. I tied these in. This is a natural color, natural mono. And I'm going to tie these in fairly long. They're going to stick up almost to the hook. And I'm going to tie them in so that they kind of face at an upward angle here, because this fly is going to ride, like I said, that hook up. I try to make them both the same length. There we go. I'm going to wrap all the way back to my material. My material should kind of act as a prop. And just to make them stick up a little bit easier, I'm going to take them and just kind of kink them. And I'll wrap forward on this mono. Then I'll actually take it, and sometimes I'll just double it over. That helps keep those eyes from falling out. And you can trim out the excess. Now we're ready for our body material, and that is going to be an EP Tarantula brush in a brown color, and we're going to use the 1-inch size for this fly. I'm simply just going to take the end of the brush here, and if you so desire, you can turn the fly right side up, if that makes it a little easier on you. Either way, And we're going to take this tarantula brush and we're going to wrap a body with it, trying to make each wrap one right in front of the other. Kind of pick out the rubber legs with each wrap. You want this body to be nice and dense, so I put these wraps very, very close to each other with each wrap. And once I get to those lead eyes, we can just take our thread, work it through that brush to capture it. I do 2 nice tight wraps, and then you can get in there and trim it out. Use a bad pair of scissors to cut that wire. Then you want to peel back any of the trapped material. And lay some wraps right behind those eyes. Then you can take your thread and jump it just to in front of the eye. Now the next step is to trim all the material. I'm going to pull all the material forward, kind of stand it up off the hook. I'm going to trim a flat portion right on the underside of the crab. Be careful not to trim your eyes or any of your legs. It's very easy to do if you're not careful. You can turn the fly upwards, do the same process. Now what I like to do at this step is I'll kind of pull the legs away from the body slightly and then trim them at a backward angle, leaving a few of them long. All you're really trying to do is just get a crab shape. Once you have the desired shape, you have a finished little crab. Only thing left to do is to add your mono weed guard. For this I just used some hard alloy tippet in 16 or 20 pound. And all I'm going to do is just take this piece, I'm going to fold it in half here. Then I'll pinch it into place, and with my thread I'll do a couple loose wraps, do a couple more a little tighter, and then I'll pull that weed guard down, and I'll do some wraps in front and behind it, and this will essentially lock it down into place. And kind of kink it forward there, and do a few more wraps behind it. That will help prop it forward. Then you can trim it. I trim it just longer than the point of the hook. Then whip finish. And I always like to super glue mine. So I'll just take a little brush on, zap a gap here, glue the eye and all those thread wraps. You have a finished EP tarantula crab. Great little permit and bonefish pattern. Pretty easy to tie, just a lot of little steps, but not too difficult to tie. And you can find all the materials for this fly on our website, intheriffle.com.